I'm not sure if it was a great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-grandfather. I believe it was a great-great-grandfather,
And he was what?
a full-blood Cherokee Indian chief.
Oh, he was a chief?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's very cool.
My grandfather knew Geronimo, was in jail with him one time out in New Mexico.
Really?
Yeah. And told me when I was a younger boy, I would go down, Mother and I'd go down there, and it lived in Memphis, Texas. And we would sit on the front porch, and he would tell me stories about Geronimo. And then when I got older, I asked him one day, I said, "You've told me a lot of stories about Geronimo. Have you got anything like a newspaper to me?" And he said, "Yeah." And he went and got them and showed them to me.
That's cool.
And
Do you still have them?
I don't know. I think one of my wives, she destroyed a lot of stuff. She was
sorry.
that type of person. And I think she's the one that destroyed them.
Aw,
But she destroyed a lot of pictures too.
I'm sorry.
But
Well, Grandpa, what's your dad's name?
author Alvin Anderson,
And what's your mom's name?
Doris Odell Hardage
And
Anderson,
Hardage Anderson? How do you spell Hardage?
Hardage.
Okay. Then what's your dad and your dad's dad and mom's name?
My dad's father's name was Alvin, I think, Alvin Anderson. And I'm not sure what his first name was. I probably got it somewhere. And my mother's grandmother's name was Florence Anderson. I don't know what her maiden name was.
Do you know your mom's parents' names?
That was Hardage. My grandfather in Memphis. That was her mother and dad. Well, her dad. That was her mother had died. This was her stepmother.
Oh, okay.
Her name was May. And she, not to talk bad about a person, but she was, she was very frugal. Like when company come or anything, if you're going to stay for her to eat, she'd put very little on the table.
Huh.
She was,
That's
strange. She's stingy is what she was.
Oh. I guess that's a different word than frugal.
That's another word for it. But my grandfather, he wasn't that way. And he was not bashful. He would tell her, "May, you get in there and you put some food on the table."
That's funny.
He was that way. And I remember when I was coming back from California, I had been, when I come back from Alaska, I got stationed in California. Well, from Victoria, we went to California. I was out there 4 months and they transferred me to New Mexico, to Albuquerque. Well, en route, my car engine blew up. Well, I had to have that fixed in Williams, Arizona. And it cost me $300. Well, I had to borrow that money from her folks because I didn't have the money. And we got to Albuquerque, and I rented, and this is a long story, but I'm going to tell you, I rented a little duplex and had an old man on the other side. They owned the place. And they fussed and fought all the time. And we got moved in. I had everything in the car that we owned. Got moved in, unpacked, and I said, well, I got to go out to the base and sign in and everything. And I went out to the base and signed in and everything and cleared in and everything. And then the guy at personnel said, oh, he said, you're a 5-0. And I said, yeah.
What does that mean?
Proficiency in my AFSC. We had a 1-0, a 3-0, and a 5-0. Well, I had taken my 5-0 test prior to leaving California, and it had come back. So when I got to New Mexico, he said, well, we're keeping 3-0s here. We're shipping 5-0s to Louisiana. I said, great.
Oh no! So you just got a place and then you had to move again?
I had been there a week. And so went back and told her, and
Told who?
my wife.
Oh, okay.
And I said, we got to pack up. And we're going to Louisiana. We packed everything we could get, but one big tissue box, grocery tissue box where the tissues come in the big boxes,
Yeah.
I couldn't get it in the car. I had to ship it.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Why didn't you just leave it if it's just a tissue box?
well, it wasn't. It was our stuff in it.
Oh, I got you. It wasn't just a box. It was a box of your stuff, y'all's stuff.
And we had the car packed, trunk, back seat, it's packed everywhere, And on en route, well, I had come on and I stopped at my parents' house in Phillips, Texas, for a couple of days, and then I went down to Memphis to see Grandpa. This is on my way to Louisiana. And I said, well, I'll stop and see him. And Saturday night, it was late Saturday afternoon, it was almost night. I said, Grandpa, I got to go. I said, I got to be in Shreveport, Bossier City by Monday morning. And he said, okay. And my wife was pregnant and all that with Bridget. And we took off and we got to Childress, was not a whole lot of distance, but it was about an hour or so drive down there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an hour, maybe a little more. And it was raining and storming and all that, and my car started knocking again.
Uh-oh. You had a rod knock?
Oh, Lord, not this guy. I said, what am I going to do? I said, well, Abel, one thing to do is turn around and go back to Grandpa's. So we turned around and went back to Grandpa's.
How far away were you at that point?
Well, we was on the other side of Childress there. Had to drive all the way back to Memphis.
Like an hour away?
Yeah, better than an hour, I think.
Yeah.
And I pulled right up beside the porch and everything, and we jumped down. Didn't get too wet. Knocked on the door. Well, it was after midnight.
That's late.
And Grandpa comes to the door, and I told him what was happening and everything, and he said, come on in. Go right on in the bedroom. Go to bed. Don't worry about it. I said, well, Grandpa, tomorrow's Sunday. He said, I know it. And he's standing there with his nightshirt on, That's when they wore them long nightshirts and everything. And he said, just y'all go to bed and don't worry about nothing. Sunday morning we got up and ate breakfast, and he said, well, the rain had stopped and all that, you know. And he said, let's get the car. He had it out in the barn, kept it in the barn. We didn't have a garage. I used the barn as a garage.
That'll work.
And got the car out, and he and I took off. And the next thing I know, we went across town somewhere. We drove up this guy's house or mobile home or whatever it was. And he got out, and the guy comes to the door, and he come out on the porch, and Grandpa, I guess, knew him, and he said, this is my grandson, and he said he's got car trouble, and we need it fixed. And the guy had a shop. He said, well, we need to fix it today. He's got to be in Louisiana tomorrow. And so he said, well, bring it over to the shop. And we went, and I eased it around, and we drove it over there and put it in. He listened to it, and he said, yeah, sounds like the mains are going out again. I said, yeah, that's what's happening. The mains is a main bearing in between where the piston goes down and hooks onto the crankshaft.
Is that what they call the rod knock?
Yeah,
And it makes it knocking sound?
The bearing is going out, and it was knocking it. So he said, well, we don't have a place here in town to get the parts. So you have to go back to Childress to get the parts. So Grandpa and I went to Childress.
Where was that at?
That was back down to where we were starting, where we had got to before.
Uh-oh. How many hours back was that?
I don't remember,
A lot.
but we whizzed down there right fast, and of course Grandpa knew everybody in the country. He got them to open up the Ford house, got the parts, and I luckily had enough money to pay for the parts.
That's
And that
awesome.
was it.
Wow.
And we got the parts, threw them in the car, and back to Memphis we went. And by the time we got back, well, he done had the car torn down and everything. And, give him a parts, and he said, well, I'll call you. And we went back over to the house and ate a late supper. And the guy called, and we went back over there, and he had it ready. And he said, now, I don't know how long they're going to stay in because it's something wasn't right or something. He said, but it'll run all right. It'll get you to Louisiana. So this was, I pulled out of there about 6:30 in the evening, on Sunday evening. And I made it all the way to Shreveport, Bossier City, early in the morning, and got a motel. And the next morning, finally I got up and I went out to the base and signed in. I went to Barksdale. And on the north gate, the guy told me how to get to the north gate. And I went out to the north gate, drove up, and the security policeman standing there, you know, and he said, could I help you? And I said, well, yeah, I don't know if I'm at the right place or not. I'm looking for Bossier Base. I said, this is Barksdale, isn't it? And he said, yeah. He said, let me see your orders. And I showed him the order, and he said, yeah, you're at the wrong place. Bossier Bay. He said, I don't think we got one of them around here. He said, wait a minute, let me go ahead and call down the office and see, you know, and he said the provost sergeant, he'll know. So he called down there and the guy told him, said, well, send him on up here. So went up to the provost sergeant's office and I walked in. I said, Lord, what are you doing here, Sergeant? I was stationed with him in Alaska.
Oh, that's funny.
And he said, let me see your orders. Are you sure? I said, yeah. I said, your people don't know where this is. He said, they don't have a need to know.
Oh,
He said, that's restricted.
you were going to a top secret location, Grandpa?
Yeah.
Seriously? That's really cool.
He said, you go down here to flat, go down the road about, like where you came from, about 2 blocks, turn right, go over to the Flatline Road, and turn left and follow it. And it'll take you all the way out, and you'll go around ball fields and everything, and it'll make a big wide circle, and you'll come around on the other end of the runway down there, and it'll come back, and then it'll come back about 4 or 5 blocks, and then it'll turn back to your left. And after you turn back to your left, he said, you'll be able to see a gate. He said, that's Bossier Base. And I said, okie dokie. Now I know where it's at. I said, these people don't know. He said, they don't have a need to know. And I said, well, I know what's over there. He said, I do too.
What was over there?
Nuclear.
Oh. Wait, and what location was this?
Shreveport, Louisiana. Well, it's Bossier Base, but
Huh.
or Bossier City. But Barksdale didn't have the need to know where we was at.
Yeah.
What we was doing. It was where we had a whole bunch of nuclear weapons stored. And had a back gate on the fence leading into the runway there, not the runway, but the taxiway,
Yeah.
where they could pull up their bombers and park them, and we could take the nuclear weapons over there and through there and take them out there, and they could load them on them planes.
So, and you got to go to this base because you were like that higher rank
No,
or that status, whatever that test thing was you did?
Well, that was because I was a 5-0, you know.
5.0 is not a higher rank?
No, it wasn't high rank, just that I had reached a higher proficiency in my,
Gotcha. Kind of like a higher rank maybe in your career status?
yeah.
Gotcha.
So I checked in and everything. We only worked there 6-hour shifts.
Oh.
We go to work at 5:30 in the morning when we get off at 12:30 in the day.
How come you had only tiny shifts?
We had six flights working, and it was about 30 men per flight, and they had the day shift, evening shift, midnight shift, and we had 3-day period there. These were 3-day shifts. One period we had 3 days, you had to move on base. Put everything in a duffel bag and move out there, and you had to move out there on the base. And for 3 days for training.
Oh, you had to stay out there for 3 days long?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we trained, we had 60 millimeter mortars, a 30 caliber machine gun, a 50 caliber machine gun, BAR, M1 rifles, and your 45s. And I think that's pretty much all the weapons we had. And I was a gunner on a 30 caliber. And it was mounted on.
But you didn't stay. Your whole family didn't stay out there with you. They were they.
No.
They
This, this is just the troops
So where'd your family stay?
at home.
Oh,
We had apartments.
oh, okay. They didn't have to stay on base. They're just like
No,
in town kind of thing.
No, there was no place on base for families to stay.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
families stayed on base.
Uh,
Maybe not then. That time.
not out there. They didn't.
Gotcha.
They had some.
Oh, like if you were on the regular base, you would, but not at this one?
Well, you had to be a certain rank to stay on base in a certain position. Like our sergeant, his name was Sergeant Anderson. He stayed on base at Barksdale. He had a house in Barksdale. But this 30 caliber machine gun.
Wait, but you were a police for the was it Air Force or Army?
Air Force.
It is Air Force. Oh, okay. I have to remember that because it's like my dad was in the Air Force and not the Army.
You know, we had the 50 and the 30 we called them the hot squad. And from the time that if anything went off down in the Q area where all the weapons were stored, they had
Mhm.
big bunker stored in and everything. If anything happened and they called an alert on them, we had 5 minutes to get there. And that meant any time of the day or night.
Oh, like you had to get there for protection, like a shelter?
Like they call a hot squad, and there's the Jeep driver and the other guy sat up front, and I was the gunner on the machine gun. We had to pick up all the this guy had to pick up all the ammunition, and this guy was helping him, and he was carrying a 30 caliber machine gun, and we had to run,
Oh,
put it
geez.
on the Jeep, and the guys on the 50 was doing the same thing, and we would take off. And it didn't matter if he was woke up at midnight.
Oh,
You
yeah.
had to get up and in a dead run and get everything and down there and get to wherever it was at and have it surrounded and like you're going to protect it.
Oh. Grandpa, I'm going to stop the recording and restart it so it's in smaller segments. So this is part 1.